آنگه ز جان دل می سرایم چه عظیمی چه عظیمی آنگه ز جان دل می سرایم چه عظیمی چه عظیمی چون مسیح آید با صدای شیپور سوی سما شوم زین جهان دور به پایش افتم با سپاس و سرود ز سر گیرم آنگه همین سرود آنگه ز جان دل می سرایم چه عظیمی چه عظیمی آنگه ز جان دل می سرایم چه عظیمی چه عظیمی آمین.
Very beautiful and moving. Thank you so much, Rose and Eugene. Many of you may not know, but Pastor Fahim, as a significant part of his ministry, he goes to prison quite often, meeting with inmates and counseling, and he doesn't go because he's committed crimes. He goes to do ministry. If you want to hear about his criminal activity, you have to hear about his before Christ life. And I'm not kidding about that. So ask him about it. Well, we have a very special guest tonight. There's many, obviously. But this one comes to us from the Provincial Corrections Chaplaincy. And I want to invite up to the front right now Chaplain Craig. I don't actually have your last name here, so.
Good evening. It's good to be here. I went on the internet, and I think if I say salam, that's great. That's it. That's all I know. I really just want to say thanks tonight. And as Pastor mentioned, I met Fahim in prison. And thanks to his explanation, you understand the circumstances were a little bit different than when you tell people you've met them in prison. I immediately loved Fahim the first time I saw him because he's shorter than me. And there's so few pastors that are shorter than me. And he's a passionate, well, I just lost my identity. That can happen as well these days. I've really enjoyed him. I really instantly did fall in love with him. He has such a great passion, and he's been a tremendous help. Obviously, I cannot speak the Farsi language, and we do have very often immigration holds. Sometimes there's some criminal history. A lot of the time there isn't. They're just people who have arrived in our country without proper papers. And Fahim was such a tremendous blessing. Sometimes making calls overseas, getting in touch with their families, reassuring their families that they're safe, that things are going to work out. and often throwing long-distance pay cards on my desk for me to use in order to facilitate overseas calls for these individuals. And of course, if you know Fahim, you know he's not exactly shy about instructing these judges and immigration panels on what they need to know about Persian culture, and does a very good job, very practical as well as passionate. And of course, he's shared his testimony in the prison, and he's been a real blessing. And so tonight, really, I just wanted to, first of all, thank Calvary Baptist Church and the members, of course, for having the vision to step out in faith. And I want to thank the Calvary Persian Church, of course, for sharing Fahim, because I understand that it takes an understanding congregation, no matter what their size, to be able to share their pastor, not only in the prisons, but of course overseas, on the internet. And I know Fahim is, I get tired just talking to him often, listening to all the things he gets himself involved in. But I have so much to appreciate his passion. So on behalf of BC Corrections and on behalf of myself and the pastoral work that we do in prisons, I just want to thank you, and thanks for the invitation tonight. I'm sure it's going to be a blessed evening for all of you. God bless.
Thank you so much. Next up, I'm very excited to introduce a key part of Calvary Persian Church, Pastor Fahim's administrative assistant, Jackie Goring, who was very involved, along with others, in organizing this event and seeing the setup. She was here very late last night, giving up her time, and I'm just so grateful to her. And so why don't we give her a hand as she comes up and shares. And one of the things I do appreciate about Jackie is occasionally she gives updates on the current ministry on a Sunday morning, and she does a fantastic job, and that's really what she's going to do for us right now. So there's your mic.
Salam Kilisa. It means hello, church. And whenever I take the microphone and stand here, I have to say that because really that's all the Farsi I know. That's it. So I get the great privilege of just speaking to you briefly about the present work that Calvary Persian Church is doing. As Chaplain Craig mentioned, it's really hard to keep up to Pastor Fahim. I think he was a marathon runner or maybe a short distance runner. I can't quite figure it out, but I have a tough time keeping up. One of the things that I did, though, before I ever started in ministry with Pastor Fahim is I'm a people watcher, and it means a great deal to me to know the character of a person, a man or a woman, so that I can give my time and give my 100% or whatever I can. So I've been able to do that, and I've been privileged to watch Pastor Fahim as he ministers. Now, he doesn't do this in isolation. He always is training. You're going to be hearing a little bit later from a gentleman, Siavash, who has worked with him for a number of years. Rose. He is constantly on his phone. That phone, I think he has 3 phones. It rings all the time. And meanwhile, he's on Skyping and talking to somebody over Facebook. So he's Skyping and Facebooking and taking phone and talking to me and giving me directions and writing letters. And it's really busy. We don't waste our time. So he gets up very early in the morning and is doing ministry, and his family is a crucial part of his ministry. He would say, and I would be okay to tell you, that he can't do any of what he does without his wife, Akram. She is his his heart, I would think would be an accurate thing to say, and I can't, and more than that. And when I say, oh, I love this or that, he goes, and I love my wife. So watching the two of them minister together and give of themselves is crucial. Some of the things that do happen, and I'm not just wanting to talk about Fahim and Akram. I'm wanting to have you percolate of ideas that you can take with you to the places that you serve, the churches that you go to, the schools that you work in and live in. They've decided that they're going to just pour their lives out and meet people at their point of need. And they had really good mentors in that. But as Fahim preaches on a Sunday, for example, we videotape it. It's then broadcast and it goes through to Iran and Turkey and other places around the world where there are Farsi-speaking people. And they listen. And he does a Bible study the same way. He's currently teaching the Christian doctrine, 30 weeks, to people online. And then he does a question and answer over Skype and Facebook. So he's actively discipling and ministering people overseas, but he also does that for Calvary Persian Church. Out of that online ministry, we are currently have home churches in 13 cities in Turkey, 5 underground, we can't tell you where, churches in Iran, again, that are corresponding and talking to Fahim on a weekly, sometimes a daily basis. But I want also, there just isn't enough time for me to tell you the things that we are doing right now, but later Richard is going to talk about what the future is going to look like. Fahim is just one person, and we keep telling him he's going to get tired and he needs to share his workload. And I don't speak any Farsi at all, but I can give my time and say, well, what can I do? I can chop vegetables, so Fahim and I chopped vegetables today together, and I don't think I did it right, because he's also a very good cook. But what we do need is people to come alongside. And the refugees, people who come to Canada, they need friends. Somebody who will sit down and have a cup of tea with them. Somebody who will give them a hug when they're crying. And I've watched Pastor Fahim cry over videos from the Middle East and things happening to men and women there. He's gone to the ministerial and said, fellow pastors, we need to reach our community. We need to let them know there's a different way. This week also, Pastor Fahim, he had a busy week. He was at a hospital bedside with a Christian brother that he'd ministered to and was dying, and was with the family and ministered to them. And I think he had 2 hours sleep, and then he got up and he drove to Seattle and was picking up people in Seattle and helping them. He can't do all of those things. We need to do those things. We need to help. So there will be ways, we're hoping that tonight you'll hear things that'll spark in you and say, oh, and you'll talk to us. Even last night after setting up and working, and he came and checked what I was doing, he still went, he said, oh, I gotta go, somebody was sick and he had to go to Langley, and he was driving there at about 10 o'clock at night, and I don't know all the things that he had to do, but ask me questions. I can't give you everything that we've done. We've got a few things. We're going to have a time in a few minutes to have some tea and coffee, and Chris, I'm going to have to modify the something, so when you dismiss, I'll just jump in for the silent auction. It's not so silent. You're going to have to come and deal with me. And I'll explain that in that time. But for present ministry, I guess the thing that I would say to you, it's been a pleasure that I've been able to work for Pastor Fahim, with Pastor Fahim. He actually said, I'm not your boss, I'm your coworker. And we are all the coworkers, and we all have an opportunity to go into the future and figure out what is it that's going to be needed by our community in these next 6 months, year, 5 years going on. And I think that's all I can say right now, and thank you very much.
At this point in the program tonight, we're going to take a break. It's about a 20-minute break because there are refreshments out there. There is a not-so-silent auction apparently happening. I don't know what that means. And then there's going to also be some finger food as well, which is amazing. So we're going to do that. But before we do, you want to explain to us how the auction now works.
Well, I just ran out of time, and I just have not had time to put the sheets down for the silent auction. So we have 5 paintings that are there. The starting price is $300. If you're interested in a painting, come see me, and I'll just take your name and telephone number, and if you want to make a bit over $300, I'll let you know. So I'm your person to come see for the silent auction. There are also 2 carpets there. Those are hand woven, hooked rugs that are there as well too. There's a half-scene table for Nowruz for spring that you can look at. And again, myself, Pastor Fahim, if you see a pastor, you could ask questions and would be happy to look after you.
And so the artist of the paintings is Gazelle, and she's actually donated those paintings to the Persian ministry. And the money goes to the Turkey mission that's happening from August 5th to September 5th that Pastor Fahim is going on. I went with him this past year. It was an amazing time. So that's where 100% of the funds go. And they're very beautifully done. So please check those out in this break. And you are dismissed. Remember, the bathroom is just through the doors to the right. And enjoy this time, this break. And after we cut the cake, we're going to eat the cake. It's usually how these things go. And I'm going to call you back in when we're starting again. And so please be listening for my gorgeous voice beckoning you back into this auditorium. Okay, so God bless. Do you got me going through? Am I going? Hi, everyone in the foyer, in the fireside room. I hope you're enjoying your cake and punch. But we are starting again. Okay, the cameras, you won't be on camera. Just this part. We are starting.
Benim pasma 5 milyon. Benim payım var mı? 5'in sağsında 5 milyon. Benim verdim ya. Nam gel 5'in mi cevap? Sağ dönem oluyor.
You can bring your drink and your plates into the sanctuary or worship center. That's fine. No problem. What? This is what happens. You have a break in the middle of your thing. Now I am sending someone out for you. Be afraid. I've sent a retired principal after you, crowd in the foyer. Paging Jackie Goring. Jackie Goring, can you come to the front, please? Remember, friends, you are losing an hour of sleep. And the slower you are, the longer this will go. And the more tired you will be tomorrow. Jackie. I'm confused, and I blame Jordan for confusing me. I'm now 1 minute behind. Otherwise, it's going to be. Well, welcome back, some of you. Again, I just want to thank all the people who were buying cake and cooking food and setting up tables. Many were involved. I saw Jackie and Bev Bogdanow. They were working here this afternoon, and so make sure if you know who those individuals are, you thank them for all their work and all their effort. And there are, of course, many special guests here this evening, but I do want to give a shout out to the students from Trinity Western University who have come. So thanks for being here, guys. And now we're going to transition back into our time together. And we're going to have some special music, just some relaxing music from Afshin and Friends. And Jackie. Also, please do not take any pictures or videos of the band that is playing for security reasons, please. I've just been informed about that. Okay. So if you are an unauthorized, this is not a Justin Bieber concert is what I'm saying to you. So if you're unauthorized, please do not be taking pictures during this time. But they're going to lead us for a few minutes in special music. Thank you so much for being here.
So hello everybody. On behalf of my friend Reza on DAF and Human in Oud and myself and Ney. I would like to thank you everybody here and also thank you the Coquitlam Calvary Church to have us here. And also, I myself get a great service from this church and also the friend from this church, especially Mr. Fahim, Pastor Fahim. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you for coming. Thank you for playing. Next up, I'm really excited to invite to the front a dear brother, Siavesh, who's going to share a testimony with us this evening.
Thank you. Good evening. My English not so good, so I had to write it down and I read what I want to say. My name is Siavesh and my wife is Kurdistan. Our 2 sons are at home right now. My family is Kurds and we lived in Iran. I became a Christian in 2005 while living in Iran. And late in 2007, my wife, Kurdistan, also became a believer of Jesus. In 2007, many things made me decided to bring my family to Turkey as a refugee. This was a very hard decision. I didn't know the things that I would go through. I needed a spiritual home and a physical home. It will be difficult to put all the things I have in my mind into this short time, but I'm going to try to give you a taste of my story. We lived in various places in Turkey, 2 cities and lots of homes, always the cheapest place, some without bath, without heat, and we had a small coal stove that we would huddle around. It was dangerous and many people have died from inhaling the smoke. In winter, this was our only source of heat. I had to try to find work doing various things like I wanted to cry. I had to try to find work doing various things like welding as a helper for moving company, bakery, anywhere I could find job. At times I wanted to cry. So many stories I could tell you. It's hard to be a refugee. For 4 years we lived and this way. We arrived in Canada 5 years ago on December 12, 2011, with all our problems and difficulties from living as refugee in Turkey. When I arrived in Canada, I had just $100 in my pocket. This was a sacrificial gift given to my family from another refugee in Turkey. When I arrived, we didn't know that Kurdistan was pregnant. 8 months later, our second son, Siavesh, was born. We had many problems in our life. Some family was here but couldn't help us, and they were not Christian. My only support was this church, both Farsi and English. Without these 2 things, I believe that my family would not be together right now. First, Jesus, second, church. We needed Jesus and the church to keep us together. We needed friends and counseling and love and lots of support and prayer. And we still need those same things. This church helped me to grow up. I was a child in my Christian faith from many years. From 2005 to 2011, I had no home, no one to teach me and help me grow and learn to follow Jesus. Because I was childlike in my new faith, many problems came and I nearly lost my family and Christian faith. I cannot list all the names, but I want to thank all the elders and pastors and all the church members. I would not be standing here today without you. I am still growing, but I'm also ready to serve Jesus. So very recently, we decided as a family that we would start to do a Kurdish Bible study. It is because I believe that the Kurdish people don't know about Jesus, about truth, or peace, or other things. Peace, hope, and God's love, which is different than human love. These people are one of the least rich groups of people in the world. And it's just beginning. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much. Well, next up, this is very exciting. I get to introduce to you a man who needs no introduction, at least on this night, and it's Pastor Fahim, who's going to come speak to us about really the future of the ministry. And I was in Turkey with Fahim for more than 2 weeks, driving through the night, driving all over the place. And usually in these stressful circumstances, the character of someone gets revealed quite quickly. And I was just so blessed to be a partner with this man and to see his integrity and his character and his love for God and people. It's very inspiring. Really, other than my wife, he is my favorite person to argue with on the planet, because there's such a commitment to come to an understanding and a resolution. So, love you, and you can have my mic.
I'm checking his mic too. So, greeting to all of you, my brothers and sisters who are. It's just amazing. Like, I'm kind of speechless. This is the first time in the stage, to be honest, because I don't know how to share that how much I appreciate each one of you here. It's very important to me, and it's quite encouraging. You are boosting me by your presence here for another 10 years. We are 10 years, we are anniversary for 10 years, right? Like, this is a boosting for me. And I want to also thanks to some people who are really being part of this program and speaking to all of us. And they will be also, there are some of us on the way that after me they will talk to. Of course, Pastor Dave, I want to thank you. He's been supporting and been mentoring me this last 12 years, speaking in my life, and it's been amazing and such a spiritually pleasure to have such a mentor, and I appreciate that, and I'm still looking forward to getting more mentoring and love from you, brother, and understanding and learning. And again, another shocking, and I mean, I can say yes and no, because the personality or brother have who really tonight came here and encouraging us, the mayor of the city. It's encouraging for all of us, I think, to have such a man who humbly come to the places that he can encourage others and bless the community. So thank you, brother. I just appreciate that. And this is encouraging for all of us, and especially for me. And thank you. Thanks for my younger brother, but he's my boss, the Chris. That's it's hard when you have a boss, but he's a younger brother, and I love him so much, and I see he's a man of God, and I love him with all my heart, and no matter what, I like the arguments too, and I enjoy it, but sometimes I have to be quiet because it could get dangerous for me. So I use my wisdom anyway, and thank you. And I want to thank before you will hear from Pastor Richard Ang, who is also, I asked him recently to be my mentor, to be his big brother, and he's going to be also academic mentor for me too in the same way, because he's a great man. He has great wisdom sitting there, and you will hear from him soon. And I'm very happy that I have good brothers around me and sisters too, because there is a sister who did plan and who did, make sure everything's go right, and the sisters who without her I couldn't really do all the things that I'm doing. She's maybe introduced herself as my assistant, but she's my dear sister and my colleague. And I love her so much too as my sister. So I want to thank Jackie too, and Jackie Goring. Did you did hear from her? Yeah. So this is all and one of the good things and encouraging, I want to thank the brother who I look at him as a big brother. I always, when he talk, I listen to him, and as he said, he become in love with me. I never did become in love with him even before he talk. So he wait, I talk, and become in love with me, but before he talk, I become in love with him. And he's a chaplain Craig, because I already knew he's sitting in the very hot place, like very dangerous situation, working with the inmates are not easy. And when before I even met him, I was excited going to see somebody who's really man of God and is strong. I'm going to learn something from him. I'm going to get something from him because I need that. And I am learning. I'm still, and I love to continue to my friendship. And again, I'm looking at him as a big brother, and I love him too. And he has a wonderful wife that she's amazing supporter. And of course, the others people who are behind the scene, like Jackie husband, and our others who are for music, Pastor Jordan, and of course the Rose and Tara, and so many others who are been working very hard, and people who are doing also now looking after the babysitting. I don't know the name, but exactly, but I appreciate, and I want to thank you all. So this is how everything's going well on what I was expecting, except one thing. I think there is a small misunderstanding here that I want to make sure is clear. And I appreciate the people who came here and talk and mention my name. But this event is not about me. This is not about me. This is about anniversary of Calvary Church Persian Ministry. And I feel embarrassed. I feel, because believe me, if it wasn't church, I couldn't do that. Some of you maybe wrote by his testimony in the past, as Pastor Chris mentioned a little bit. It's not me all doing these things. And Pastor Dave mentioned that always I have a bigger vision than my strength, because it's not my vision. I have nothing to present. I used to be homeless, drug addicted, living in the street, have nothing. Hopeless, tried to suicide a few times because I didn't want anything. But once Jesus came to my life, he gave me identity. He gave me a strength. He gave me something. And today, because still I surrendered to him, these things are all happening. So it's not about me, it's about Jesus, and it's about the church. We should know that. And all credits go to him. And thanks to those brothers and sisters around me, again, it's like they're mentoring me, and I feel like I surrendered with a spiritually treasure. Always been receiving and having love. But how come this is all come around here? And there are a few questions in people's mind. When I was trying to prepare myself for tonight what I can say about the leadership doing and without what I'm doing for the future, because usually leaders who run the things program and do the future things and plan, because I want to see we come all the way celebrating 10 years anniversary here, but this is not the finish, this is just the beginning, because so far I've been working on the ground to make sure we have a good foundation so we can in the future have a more fruit to the community. As you heard, there are so many social works that I've been receiving, which I get, when I get hired here, it wasn't my job description. But as a pastor, as somebody who come from background who, as I told you, I didn't grow up in pastor family or Christian family or Christian atmosphere. But when Jesus came to my life, I was looking for a right leadership and to see who is good leader can be my mentor, to see that in a spiritual way. And when I look at the different characters in the Bible, I look at the Moses, I look at the King David, I look at the different. And when I look at the Jesus, he is different than anyone else. Because they all have hundreds and thousands followers. The Jesus was only, he didn't have that many followers. 12, and even one of them was backing to him, right? Like it was just step out. Leader who serving people, not ruling people. That's why maybe one of the actually question people have, why is not so many congregations sitting here? Because I'm not looking for big congregation. I'm looking what kind of fruits, how can, as a pastor, it's not just preaching here, but walking in the community to look around, to see what are the needs. Who need the help? Who are desperate? Who are broken? If I see myself as a Christian, I have to feel the responsibility. I don't wait for a welfare to help the person, to help them. Oh, this is a city responsibility. This is each person who live in the community. They have responsible for each other, for our neighbors. And especially if we are a pastor, we are presenting Jesus. If we are a leader, if we are Christian, we are ambassador of Jesus. We need to look after each other. So I feel that practically I have to go in the community and do it, and I've been end up in the prison because I was in prison actually in the time which it was my fault. I was criminal, and not one time, several times before I knew Jesus. So when I talk to the prisoner, I know, I can feel them. When I talk to broken people, I can feel them because I was broken. I was desperate. I can feel them. But Jesus, he changed everything. So the future, my hope that we see this, all these jobs has been done, so many works that people mentioned, this ministry has been blessed, a lot of marriage, a lot of refugees, a lot of things, not just locally but globally. I hope this continue. And this is not Fahim's job. This is our jobs. Especially today we can see the community that's come and there is a lot of people are here. So my hope is that people start coming to the ministry, like not just Persians, but English people come and we all can help. As you see, Jackie don't speak Farsi, but she's a big help. So bless you, and look forward to answer some question after the program. Thank you. Just a couple of things I mentioned here, sorry. Stay here. I want to thank a few more people, obviously, during the ministry when I came here. I apologize. I'm a preacher. I'm not a teacher or a speaker like this, so I preach, right? That's what I did. I want to thank a few people when I came, also who are during ministry helping me. I want to thank to a special couple, the Lynn and Dennis, who when we came here, he was broken, kind of physically. We both, my wife and I, we was hospitalized and open heart surgery, and I was on bed. They came to our home and helped us a lot. I appreciate that. I want to thanks to Richard, John and Joy. They've been mentoring me for a long way, and they've been part of the ministry and support, and I really appreciate that. And also, I like to mention the couple who, actually, because of them, I came to this church. They brought me here. They brother Randy and sister Margot. I don't know if they're still here. Yes, Randy, Margot. Yeah. Because I was pastoring at the church, and church was, closed, or was full. I was kind of very broken, and then Randy and Marco really been supporting that time and blessing us and brought us to this church, introducing us, and I want to thank you. You brought us to the right place, and we've been growing, and they've been part of our family for some time, so I appreciate that. And then, of course, Siavash is a big help. Last 3-4 years, he's a good brother in my right hand, and he's been facing challenges with me all the way. And also Brother Ahmed, who is sitting there, he's been also a big part of the ministry. Ahmed, yes, yeah, is, so I appreciate, and if I miss anyone, I apologize. But I love you all, and I appreciate that. Yeah, good, thank you. Something that was mentioned, I appreciate that, you see. Honey, come here, please. Without her, of course, it's impossible to do that. And I tell you, I didn't get such a wife so easy. I prayed for it for more than 3-4 months. Every night, the Lord give me the right wife. Before I met her, I said, Lord, give me right wife, because I want to serve you, and I want somebody come to my life that we can serve you. And after 4 months, I go through some challenges, but she's here. And for the last 17 years, we have 5 kids, and we're serving Lord with all our hearts. Bless you.
Thank you, Pastor. One of the special things about Fahim is his ability to stick with the vision the Lord has given him and not give up despite challenge and even opposition from leadership, because the church never moves as fast as the passion of an individual. And so sometimes God births passions in our hearts, and we need to persevere. And Fahim has a lot to teach me and a lot to teach us about that, as does Akram. And so I want to honor them both for that. And I also want to honor this guy, Pastor Richard, who's going to be closing off our evening with a word here, with some sharing, with an invitation. And so here he is, the one and only.
Good evening. They put me in to follow Fahim. Well, I've been looking at this carpet and I'm wondering when it'll get up and fly. Maybe not tonight. My job is to put things in perspective. And I can't help but look back through the lens of history. In fact, some 38 years ago, in January 1978, the Ayatollah Khomeini returned to Iran. And he returned to a hero's welcome. They welcomed him like a demigod. He was the man who was to usher in a new wave of history, a new page of history after the Shah, the monarchy, had been de-established. They got rid of the Shah because of all his abuses, and they welcomed back the Ayatollah. And this was the beginning of what was to be a glorious revolution in the history of Iran. But this glorious revolution, this dream, soon became a terrible, terrible nightmare. It's a nightmare that continues even to today. And this has resulted in the exodus, the mass exodus of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Some people say between 2 to 3 million Persians, Iranians, have left their home country. A big chunk of them, in fact most of them, many of them have gone to the West. They say over about 1.5 million in the US. They say about 200,000 here in Canada. But these figures are questionable. I would say they are far more than that. I am told that there are between 700,000 and 1 million Persian refugees, Iranian refugees in Turkey alone. And you heard the story from Siavesh of what it's like to be a refugee. I'm wondering, what is the hand behind all this? For quite a while, the history looked very bleak for these people. They were wondering, what is life like as a refugee? Most of us here will never know what it's like to be a refugee. Strange things happen to people in refugee camps. My son, who is in Lesbos now, tells me some of the amazing stories of those who make that trek. There have been consequences to the lives of these people. Now, we have heard of the bad. And when you hear these stories of refugees, you're wondering, could there be a glimmer of light in all this? I've been reading up, I've been following the refugee situation. You know something? One consequence has been with the dawn of the satellite age, a lot of people, Fahim included, tech-savvy people, have been broadcasting stuff. They found Jesus overseas. And they've been broadcasting stuff, the gospel, back to their families in Iran. I am told, I read from the not the Globe and Mail, the Guardian, and they estimate that the number of converts from Muslim to Christian in Iran is between 300,000 to 500,000. That's a conservative estimate of what's going on in Iran today. The Christians used to be the Assyrians and the Armenians. They were the residue Christians from way back when. But now we find converts in Iran from Islam, from Muslim to Christian. My friends, something is happening. Something is happening beneath the surface that we are not aware of. Now, things are happening to those who have left Persia. I read of a story, several stories in fact, of Persian refugees, immigrants who have found faith in Germany, the land of the Reformation, the land of Martin Luther, the land where the churches have gone stale. Big cathedrals with small congregations. And they found that suddenly their congregations have been swelled by Persian people. I read of the story of this German pastor who's learning Farsi. And they're taking delight, just as we are in Calvary Baptist, at seeing Persian people coming into our midst and finding Christ. This evening, we have heard many things. We have received greetings from our mayor. We have heard testimony from Siavesh. We have heard from Fahim. I want you, my friends, to settle this in our hearts, in our minds, and ask ourselves, what is happening? What is the hand of the Lord? Sometimes it's very difficult to see the hand of God in what is apparently a confusion. But those of us who take the trouble to read this good book very often find that amidst confusion, the strands of confusion somehow come together in a remarkable way that only God can do. Now, He is doing something in the lives of these people. My friends, it is not politicians and ayatollahs who are causing this diffusion. As we speak tonight, there are thousands upon thousands of people who are making their way across the water. Many of them Persians, some of them Afghanistanis, most of them Syrians. This decade will go down as the decade of the refugee. Last year alone, 2015, the UN says 1 million Syrians left their homeland. This year, 2016, they say it'll be 3 million. How are we going to absorb? How is the West going to settle these people? I don't know. You don't know. We have no idea. But one thing is certain. Some of them, many of them, will find their way to North America. 25,000 have already come. Justin Trudeau will be under great pressure from the European prime ministers and presidents to accept more. I read yesterday that 300,000 will come into Canada. There will be 300,000 immigrants coming to Canada this year. And you and I can rest assured that a chunk of them will be Muslim. What is your response to this? There are variations. It varies from a feeling of being squirmish, from being a great feeling, a great challenge to the way of life that we are used to. But it also can be viewed as a great opportunity. I'm told I've got 1 minute left. How can I, an immigrant myself, say no, turn your back on these people? How can you and I, who are either immigrants or who have immigrant forebears, turn our backs and say no to these people? We are witnessing something unprecedented in human history, my friends. And the Lord wants us not to be neutral on this. The Lord wants us to be proactive in this. There's a huge precedent for what's happening, my friends. 40, 50 years ago, the Chinese communists threw out the missionaries. There were only a handful, a few thousand Christians in China. 10 years ago, I hear that they are 120 million Christians in China. That's 10 years ago, and that's conservative. You see, the Lord is working something in our midst. And I will invite you, my friends, to change the way that we have been thinking. We can no longer do church the way we have always been doing. We have got to ask ourselves, Lord, what is your will? What is happening? What changes have to be made up there and down here for your will to be established? I believe that we are going to see a mighty revival. You have seen revivals all over the world, but we have not seen revivals among the Muslim people. I believe that a huge chunk of them are going to come to Jesus. And this church will have a significant role to play in this. They need Sunday school teachers. They need people to teach ESL. They need a lot of interaction. You know what it's like to be a newcomer in a country? First of all, you look at what's happening and you're grateful and you are happy to be here. But when people show you love and they embrace you and they bring you in, something happens to their heart. The gospel, my friends, we have to preach very little where that is concerned. The gospel shines through the actions of the people. I just want to close. I know I'm finished. But allow me to quote a verse from the prophet Isaiah. He says this in Isaiah 54. It says, enlarge the place of your tent, and let the curtains of your habitations be stretched out. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes, for you will spread abroad to the right and to the left, and your offspring will possess the nations and will people the desolate cities. My friends, let us resolve to enlarge our vision and to enlarge our tent. Amen.
I'm just going to invite you to stand to your feet if you're able. We are at the end of our time together, but we're going to close in prayer. And what Fahim said earlier is his heart, 100%. This isn't about Fahim. It's not about Akram. It's about the Lord Jesus, what he's doing in our city, in our world. But I do want to invite Pastor Fahim and Akram up to the front, because we're going to pray for them and the ministry as well. And they don't know I'm doing this. I'm just doing it. So they can come up to the front. I'm going to invite Dave Barker as well, and Jackie Goring, and maybe John and Joy as well, because I want to have a few people just pray for them, but pray also for the ministry, because this isn't about them. It's about the Lord Jesus and what he's doing. And I know Akram in particular was like, when you saw the order of service, you're like, when are we getting prayed for? And so we want to make that happen. And I'm just going to invite, I called up people who can project. So I'm just going to invite a few of you to just pray, and I'll close us. And I'm inviting all of you to stand and join with us in prayer. Amen. Amen. Whoa, got loud. So again, thank you so much for coming. You need not rush off. I know that some people will be staying for a Q&A with Pastor Fahim that's starting in a bit. But again, thank you for coming. Just one other housekeeping note. Remember, spring forward, change your clocks. Right? And for Calvary people, if you're going to the Evergreen, our church plant, if you're going to their launch service tomorrow, it's at 10 o'clock. And for the 5 of you that are left here with me, we start at the usual time. Spring forward. God bless you. Good night.